I swear to God. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation brought to you by our great partners at FanDuel. My name is Aaron Bruski, and with me is the great Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. And today, we're going to recap Monday night's action. And as usual, we'll check in on Doc's My Guys, as well as my Bruski 150 players from last night. We'll hit our top two ads. We'll hit the drop zone. And then in today's episode, we have a special buy low or avoid, like the plague segment. And we will also look at tonight's NBA Cup final game. And then I will get to releasing the Bruski 150. And then I'll take a big nap at some point. Doc, you grumpy old man, you. What the hell's going on?
We need to trade shirts. I need that shirt that says "Ray of Bleeping Sunshine." I'm wearing a Spurs hoodie.
As you should.
Part of my way of sucking up the Andre. And I didn't realize the Spurs were playing for the Cup championship tonight until after I put it on and came in here and sat down. But go Spurs, I guess.
Well, you learned your lesson, Doc. You don't ever bet against the San Antonio Spurs. Ever. Welcome, folks, to Sports Ethos. Head on over to sportsethos.com and check out our memberships. Today, we're releasing the Bruski 150 NBA Cup update version. So that is a lot of work on yours truly's part. We take all the B150 projections, and then I re-rank everybody for both 8 and 9 cat. I did tons of player comments. It was actually kind of fun. The comments are the best part. And aside from all of that, we've got tools, we've got articles. Today just happens to be a big release. So make sure if you're not a member, check out a membership over at sportsethos.com. Get the NBA Fantasy Pass, and you will not be sorry. Let's get to some news here, Doc. It was a massive night last night. It was like reading box score after box score going, holy moly. At first, you thought you were doing so well in your fantasy league because all your guys are going off. And then you're like, oh, no, everybody went off. Okay, that wasn't good. They went off better than I did. So let's get to it. John Morant had an injury. Actually, if you check my Twitter feed at Aaron Bruski, I've got the film of it. I don't know if there's been an update. He stood on the sideline afterwards, looked kind of like an ankle deal. We'll have to check the reporting on that one if there's any reporting. I don't think I've seen anything, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. One of those classic small markets, and the guy got injured at the end of the game. And if he's not hobbling off the court, I guess maybe we don't get an update on that. We also had a big Jaren Jackson game. We'll cover that in a little bit as well. Just massive stat lines everywhere. I mean, I don't even know kind of where to start. Cam Spencer went off. Let's save the stat stuff for later, actually. Tyler Hero, he got ruled out of yesterday's game right at the very end. Toe injury, which is not great news because he had about 4 days off prior to that. Doc, feel free to jump in if you've got any takes on any of this stuff. I know some of this is bigger. Then the Mavs ruled out Anthony Davis with a left calf contusion. That looked like some friendly fire from Max Christie. So a classic contusion to the same calf that kept him out all those games, though. So that's a bit of a mess. Tari Eason did not make it into the game last night. Actually, that's the end of the injury news. So, Doc, any of that news, Tyler Hero, Anthony Davis, I know you don't like at least Anthony Davis, but the Tyler Hero stuff, is this enough to spook you? And if you had Tyler Hero, consider moving him?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have Tyler Hero anywhere, and I wasn't going to talk about Tyler Hero today, so I didn't really
dig in.
I didn't really treat Tyler Hero's injury as it was life-changing and altering for me. And maybe that's my bad. Maybe I should be doing that with every player that there is. But, I mean, it does make me think that maybe our guy, Davion Mitchell, is going to be good. And he had a good game last night. So, not a great game, but he had a decent game. I think Davion had 12 points, 2 threes, 4 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Like, that's a good game for a backup point guard. So I love him. Jaime Jaquez played 30 minutes. That helped. I don't know. We just don't know the severity of this injury. He's going to miss a game. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
I don't
see.
know. The amount of time between games is it could be the case that like let's just buy another game. Let's buy one more game. Let's be super sure. That gives them like 5 days off. Let's just go that route. Your Jaime Jaquez is he gets completely helped by this. If this is bad news for Tyler Hero at any long-term level, I think that would just kind of clinch his top 125, top 100 production the rest of the way. So interesting stuff there. All right, well, let's talk about all the big stat lines last night. Doc, who are your Dr. A's, my guys of the night?
Well, I was going to dedicate all these guys I talk about today to my FanDuel lineup last night because I looked at it early and I was way down, and Najee Marshall had done nothing, and Filipowski did nothing in the first quarter, and I was like, well, so much for that. And then I looked at it at the end of the night when it was all over, and my boys went off. And one of those guys, Nikola Jokic, Kamala and I were debating Jokic versus Luka back earlier, in draft season. And we weren't really taking into consideration percentages. So first of all, Jokic line last night was 39 points, 5 triples, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Ho-hum, another day at the office for Jokic. I was looking at him versus Luka because it's like 1 versus 5 in the overall rankings. And Luka's got him in points. He's got him in threes, the places we thought. But Jokic is shooting 61% from the floor. And even though
It's stupid.
Even though Luka is quietly shooting 81% from the free throw line, which nobody talks about how much improvement he's shown there over his career. The field goal percentage is so different between Jokic and Luka that Luka wins. Jokic wins the overall matchup. So anyway, Jokic is just, it's silly how good he is. And I kind of wish that, I very much so wish that Wembanyama wouldn't have gotten hurt so we could see where Wemby's numbers would line up with Jokic if they had both played this whole season, but it is what it is.
We'll get to see it in the per game rankings. And this whole Wembanyama destroying fantasy leagues and not being able to be drafted anymore, that it's just amazing. I guess it's not so much that people got it wrong with Wemby. I think we still don't know what Wemby can do, but with Jokic, he's so freaking good that he's rendered all conversation useless. He is the man. He's the number one guy. Nobody's taken that throne until they rip it from his cold dead hands. And
plus he doesn't get hurt. He doesn't miss games.
It helps when you don't jump. If you don't jump, it's nice. But yeah, no, he doesn't get hurt. He
doesn't run. He doesn't jump.
He just is. But the when I look at, I did hey, 27 teams can't compete for an NBA title this year. I said that on Twitter, and I included Denver because the Spurs were playing the Thunder, and the Thunder had lost one game to that point, and the Spurs were the plucky underdog. And I think I go look at Jokic and I go, man, he could easily be the favorite. If they get the other guys healthy, Nikola Jokic just might outplay everybody in a playoff series and be that dude and win. And it's just fascinating stuff. Those 3 teams at the top of the West and the top of the NBA. Doc, you got another one you want to toss out there?
Cooper Flagg, youngest guy to ever score 40 points in an NBA game. He's 18. 42 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, a 3. If Dallas lets him keep going, and I think they're going to, he's going to be a second half problem, I think, for the rest of the NBA. I think fantasy wise, you want Cooper Flagg on your team the rest of the way. Do you feel that way, Brew?
He was a fun one to rank because initial rankings had him in the kind of 30-40 range, I want to say, at the beginning of the season. And people really reached up and drafted that dude. I was seeing him getting drafted in the 2nd round and just thinking okay, yeah, it could happen. The player, you got to love the player. I mean, everything on film looked great. I couldn't push him up the ranks that much. And then he just, so I was disappointed for the guy and anybody that drafted him. He's sitting in the 100 range to start the season, in the 80s. And it really looks like his cash counting stats are low at that point. But then in the last week or so, 2 weeks, he's been pumping the numbers up, and then he gets a big one against the Jazz. And but I'm noticing 1 steal, 2 blocks, 1 3. And for him to be a top 40 guy, the rest of the way, he's got to keep that number, the average of those 3 categories, he's got to keep it up at like 3.5, 4. And that's been the trouble there. I just put his final rank into stone for the B150 here. And I'll tease it a little bit. It's inside the top 50. So it represents a good boost for him, and he could theoretically go higher. But I hope he does, and I hope that Dallas leans into that. And the situation's right. I mean, there's not a lot of players to take the ball from him in Dallas.
At the beginning of the year, I think you and Rick and I did some bold predictions, and I think one of mine was Cooper Flagg will have at least 2 triple doubles. So I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for a triple double from him, and he wasn't too far off last night, but he hasn't done it yet. And I have a feeling I may lose that one.
Well, I wonder what you think about Ryan Nembhard, because he had 11 assists last night. If he's going to get the assists, it's going to come from Nembhard a little bit. If Nembhard can keep the job and play well, how are you feeling about old Nembhard after his 14, 4, and 11? 1 steal, 2 threes last night.
I still like him. Brandon Williams didn't play. That helped. This Brandon Williams Nembhard timeshare is kind of a buzzkill. If one of them gets out of the way, the other one's probably going to go off. And I think Nembhard's the one you want to roster out of those 2. So, pretty good, pretty good. 11 assists. I'll take it.
I think calling him a late round guy for the foreseeable future, I mean, maybe there's some risk there. Maybe he's like a 75% chance to hit that mark, 66% chance to hit that mark. It's not great, but if you needed assists and Ryan Nembhard's sitting there, that's an easy, yeah. So interesting stuff there. We'll get to my B150 players of the night. Old Kyle Filipowski showed up, 25 points, a season high for him, 9 boards. 1 block, 2 threes, big nights for Lauri Markkanen. I mean, Lauri could easily headline this show. So could have Keontae George. Lauri, 33 and 16, 5 assists, 4 steals, 1 block, 1 3. My God. Keontae George, 37 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 5 threes. Yeah, the game went to overtime, but, whatever. Nurkic, Yusuf Nurkic, that is, he had prescribed rest here. And then Kevin Love and Svi Mikhailiuk just outright kind of benched. Kevin Love, not so surprising. But the fact that if Kevin Love, if you just know for a fact that Yusuf Nurkic, like say he gets traded or something, or he gets hurt, and Kevin Love is finally parted ways with, he's not getting minutes anymore. What's to stop Kyle Filipowski from doing this on, every other night, this kind of a thing? He looked like a kind of a main cog for this team heading throughout last night's game. And I kind of think he's must roster at this point. I think go ahead.
He looked like he did last year at the end of like Filipowski was balling last year. And, it's just more Jazz crap, right? Like, just let Filipowski play. Why are you going to tease us all year? And then in February, they're going to shut everybody down, and suddenly Filipowski is going to be a monster again. Like, let him go now. Let him play now. Is my thing.
I don't get it either. I think they're trying to do something with Nurkic. Like, I don't know what it is, because like when he's on the floor, he just gets carved up relentlessly, and it's just a gift to the other team. I'm sure he's got offensive skill and there's 2 sides to the coin and all of that, but yeah, no. Maybe I try to get a trade, something out of it for Yusuf. I don't know, but Kyle Filipowski to me is a must roster player at this point, because there's every week that's passed with this, we're getting closer to the point where it's like, there ain't no reason not to do this. And I know we could say that for a lot of situations in a lot of different places, and sometimes it doesn't pan out. But in this case, Filipowski has top 50 upside, could be top 75 real easy. And then if he's kind of slow cooking, it's top 100 for Kyle Filipowski. So great stuff there. Jaren Jackson is my other B150 player of the night. 31 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks, 4 threes. What the hell? This is in Los Angeles. I don't know if Los Angeles was like a motivating factor here. He just wanted to do it in front of the Clippers. I don't know.
Well, part of it's that the Clippers suck.
That's true. That is true.
They're so bad.
But why not every other 5 games or something? What is this like? And hearing him talk at the end of the game is kind of like ho hum. Like, yeah, of course I could do this, but no big deal. Nothing to see here. He doesn't seem like angered by this season. He doesn't seem like he's hurt. He just
doesn't seem like
all
he
year.
Cares.
I mean, I guess I would have to think he cares at least a little bit, but it's just so now you have it in you to go out and reach up for a 5 block, 2 steal game with 31 points and 4 threes. What about all these other games? And the box score for the Memphis Grizzlies was super weird. Cam Spencer went off. Santi Aldama did practically nothing. We'll hit on a couple of these guys at some point here, but I guess the thing with Jaren Jackson is because of his pedigree or past results half of the time in his career, we've seen him be a second round guy. We've seen him drafted in the early rounds forever. I think even this year, maybe dropping into the 50s. But obviously, I don't think you buy it, Doc. But at what point in time do you think we change the story about Jaren Jackson? Because right now he's a top 100 guy at best, and probably somebody you're not excited to have. When does that story change? How many of these games do you need to see for that to happen?
I mean, if he does it again in the next one, I'm feeling a lot better that day than I did yesterday. 2 games in a row from Jaren Jackson like this, and I would be fired up. But I don't trust that he's going to do it. And, I mean, trying to find the reason in his mentality and also just the physicalness of a basketball game as to why it happened last night, I have no idea. I mean, I think the most obvious answer is the 6-win Clippers, who have basically given up on the season. Like, they do not care.
I mean, they're planting trees, dude. That's what they do with their time. It's the fascinating Kawhi Leonard, Tyronn Lue, whatever's going on with, Chauncey Billups and all that stuff. It just feels it in the Ballmer kind of the 3 of these dudes going out there and talking like they're very concerned about certain things. And then the season goes south. I mean, it doesn't happen much more perfect than that.
My biggest miss in my 30-year career of doing this is probably predicting that the Clippers were going to be awesome this year. And I thought they were going to be. And on paper, they sure looked it, but man, it is bad. And now I'm worried about all those players. I don't know how I'm sorry I hijacked this conversation from Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Clippers, but anyway, back to Jaren.
And one last thing on that. I'm trying to remember, were they a team that had this kind of a start in the past and then rattled off something like 12 straight wins and got back into it? So is there a way this could happen a second time? I don't know. But it looks
they're
like
not even competing in these games, though. They're getting blown out almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the leadership of James Harden is, undefeated, right? Let's get to the top ads from last night, Doc. Who is your top ad on a surprisingly slow night for ads, despite the fact that the box scores went off?
My top ad might also be my top sell high guy. Cam Spencer is out of his mind right now, dude. His last 2 games, well, hell, this month, he's averaging 19 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, 1.2 steals, 4 3-pointers, and he's shooting 68% from the field. His last 2 games, he's averaging 24 points, and he's hit 15 out of 19 shots, and he's hit 13 out of 16 3-pointers. Like, he is on fire right now. So we told you yesterday. Remember, I asked you, I said, would you rather have Cam or would you rather have, who was the other guy we were talking about? Who?
They're great. I won't remember. I don't remember what day it is.
I don't remember either. But we were talking about 2 free agents, and I was like, who'd you rather have? And I mean, the answer appears to be Cam Spencer. But also, if you've got Cam Spencer and you want to turn him into somebody you can rely on down the stretch, maybe you can trade Cam Spencer right now because his December numbers are sick. However, be careful because Ja Morant got hurt last night. Cam Spencer's been good for basically the whole season. So I'm not telling you have to trade Cam Spencer. He's not going to play any better than he's played the last 2 games.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you to drop Cam Spencer. And I there's certain things, man. Like he took a logo-ish 3 last night and everybody had 0 problems with it. He's just that dude. And, he and his brother are taking the league by storm. And that kind of stuff has momentum. And I just, in a place that really, it's the contrasts. Like Ja Morant, I'm not going to get on him for last night's stuff. I mean, he just kind of hurt himself. Like, it wasn't his bad. He just went in there and hurt himself. But like all of the gunk, with Ja contrasted with what Cam Spencer brings to the equation in Memphis, like that kind of stuff usually finds its way, to end up in a productive player for you in a fantasy league. So I'm not going to tell you to get rid of Cam Spencer. If you want to sell while the value is maybe at its peak, feel free. But like I'm thinking this guy's going to have value for the rest of the season, and that's a lot of fun. Jalen Wells had 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 3. I'm still kind of like not into the Jalen Wells from a roto, at least fantasy perspective. Maybe in a head-to-head, there's some legs there. I think once he establishes a little bit more of a dribble drive game, he will be a much more well-rounded fantasy player. I'll throw Ryan Nembhard's name back out there again. The 14, 4, and 11, 1 steal, 2 threes. Najee Marshall, 15 points. I know he didn't do it for your FanDuel lineup, but Najee Marshall, probably more of a.
He did. He was doing nothing. And then I looked up at the end. He was solid.
Nice. Well, he's going to be solid for fantasy owners in the top 100 range, I think, for the rest of the season, because Dallas, they kind of look like they've figured out what they are. It's not perfect. There's the connector in Ryan Nembhard, and that's why I think he's got staying power as a late round guy. And then you have multiple scorers. It's not pretty in the sense that like PJ Washington isn't a great assist guy. He's not moving the ball around. People aren't afraid of the playmaking there. Anthony Davis, not really afraid of the playmaking there. And you kind of go down the line, and there's Najee Marshall, and he's going to score. He's going to do what Najee Marshall does. I think it's the top 100, top 125 at worst. But this is easy plucking if you need a waiver wire pickup. You got anybody else you want to shout out from last night, Doc?
I had Jamal Shed in my lineup. He had 8 whopping points, but he had 2 threes, 3 rebounds, 10 assists, and a block. Plays for Toronto. Quickly is in his way, but Jamal Shed's a good player, man. I like him.
Yeah. I mean, this could get interesting for him in the second half or 2/3 of the season. I'll just mention Isaiah Collier, 10 points, 3 boards, 8 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 31 minutes. You had like Ace Bailey struggling with fouls. Walter Clayton played 13 minutes. I think we're seeing a little bit of a backup point guard competition on a game-by-game basis in Utah. So I would probably wait until we get confirmation that somebody's fallen out of this thing. But it might just be the case that they kind of every other game. This one, it was a really funny moment. Collier needed to foul down by 3 or up by 3, pardon me, in last night's game. And he accidentally fouled, and he was so upset with himself, and it was the correct play. And just the highlights of a young player. So just got to keep an eye on those guys in the backup point guard slot for Utah. And while you're checking on some of these players in your waiver wires and whatnot, take a moment, hit the thumbs up on the video that you're watching. That would help us out a ton. Thank you guys so much. Let's get to the drop zone, Doc. Who you got?
Peyton Watson is who I'm going to talk about. I don't know if he's a drop or not. depends on how much you need. 12 points, 5 boards, and 1.5 blocks, because that's what he does. He suffered a trunk contusion last night, which is an injury to his side. Coach called it a stinger after the game, and if you have a stinger, it means you took a shot and you're fine. Not an injection. You just took a shot to that area of your body. But I don't think he's going to miss a lot of time. I don't know if you need 12 points, 5 boards, and 1.5 blocks in your life that much. He's a borderline cut guy in 12-team leagues, I think. I found it interesting. Tim Hardaway Jr. played 40 minutes off the bench last night for Denver. And, Brew, you've kind of been on him lately. I think if Watson misses time, I think Hardaway might be the guy.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's not pretty, but that would be the case. And it's not that pretty in the box score. 13 points, 2 assists, 2 threes, 2 of 8 from 3. You know, he'll have a good one in there at some point, and that hopefully will be the time that you streamed him in your lineup. I've got into the Watson discussion real quick before I go on. I this was one of the reasons I wasn't as hot on Watson as seemingly everybody else. He went for some huge fab bids in high stakes, and I didn't get him, I don't think, anywhere. And then he went off for the next week, and I was like, I should have bid more. But then basically it's the stat set. It's the lack of consistency that he brings when maxed out at like 30, 35 minutes. It starts to fall apart over the long haul. And now eventually you'll have guys returning, and Peyton Watson will go back to being a deep league guy only, back in the top 200 range. Asar Thompson's going to be in the top 200 range if he doesn't get his act together. And he's in the drop zone for me. 7.6 boards, 1 of 7 from the foul line. That's it. That's all you got, folks. And I don't know what's going on in Detroit. I wonder if the reality is setting in that they have an amazing young player who theoretically might not get there. He just might not, if he doesn't get the shooting figured out, if he doesn't get the free throw line figured out, and then the mental game, if he doesn't get those 3 things figured out. Now, I think the good news is all three of those things are improvable for a player at his career arc. But these guys are kind of somewhat competing for, at least an Eastern Conference championship. They're definitely in that conversation. The NBA title, I mean, maybe you get lucky in a series. It's happened for Detroit in the past, even though I don't know if I would call that luck. I predicted that one way back in the day. But I think that do we go get Lauri Markkanen? Do we do something else? Do we get Anthony Davis? And a lot of teams are looking at, well, you got to get rid of Asar Thompson, and they don't want to do that. And now they're going to get zoned up the rest of the season, and Asar Thompson, it just might continue to get ugly. I'm not telling you to drop Asar Thompson right now, but consider your future. If we're talking about this in 3 weeks, like, what's your personal limit with Asar Thompson, Doc?
It's a great question.
That's why I make the big bucks.
Luckily, I don't have Asar on any of my teams, so I don't pay that much attention to them. I don't really mess with them in my FanDuel lineups. But I feel like he's still a can't fail guy. Like, and you brought up the point, well, maybe he's just not who they thought he was. And maybe he's never going to be what we thought he was going to be, which I think that is a possibility at this point. But we also got to remember how injured this guy was, and how serious his problems were, and the fact he's playing basketball at all is sort of impressive. And I'm gonna give him one more season, Brew. I'm gonna give him next year, and then if next year he is a dud again, then it's probably over.
There are a few guys in the NBA who
still have hope.
He can do. Like, I mean, like, just his pure jumping ability at his size and his lateral movement. And I think some people are getting a little bit out over their skis talking about, like, this is the best point of attack defender in the NBA. I don't think he's put enough on tape to be able to say that with such clarity. But he's one of the few people who can do what he can do. So therefore you kind of put up with it. Isaiah Stewart, 7-7, 1 block. Not so worried about Stewart. I think he's just a back end kind of top 100 to 150 guy the rest of the season. Tobias with a ho-hum game, but that's Tobias in a nutshell. Doc, are you dropping Khalil Ware?
What you doing here? Our sponsor FanDuel has contractually obligated me to talk about Khalil Ware in the drop zone every show that we do for the rest of history. And I'm just kidding with all that, but I talk about him every time. Let's look at this. So last night, 19 minutes, 6 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks. 6, 13, and 2. I can live with that. 19 minutes sucks. The minutes here, when they fluctuated earlier in the year, everybody was panicking. But he always backed up low-minute games with big ones. So December 1st, he played 16. Then he went 25, 22, and 30. Okay, that was a decent stretch. Some of the stats were down a little bit, but he was playing minutes. And then these last 2 games, which were very far apart, I might add. One was Tuesday on December 9th, and the next one wasn't until yesterday, the following Monday. 12 minutes, 19 minutes. Like, I'm not dropping Khalil Ware still. I'm just getting pissed off now. I don't understand why he can't just play. Just give him 23 minutes a night. That's all we want. That's all I'm asking for. It's all anyone's asking for. And this Tyler Hero injury, if he does miss time, it probably helps Khalil Ware because somebody's going to have to eat up some of that clock, and 3 minutes extra to Khalil Ware is not out of the question. So
it's also worth a lot of fantasy value there. It's buy low season on Khalil Ware. It ain't drop zone season, but he's got to get mentioned because 19 minutes looked ugly, and sometimes it gets a little ugly in that box score. Daniel Gafford's a kind of a similar guy. He's in my drop zone here, and he is really battling with this ankle injury. And so he talked about it extensively before the game and more or less kind of gave the impression of, look, guys, I'm just trying to do something on the basketball floor here. And we all collectively know that it's risky for me to be out here right now. He had 13 minutes, 2 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, a steal and a block, kind of saved a night if you had to use a Daniel Gafford, which, maybe, who knows. Gaff, though, is one of these guys that just as recently as last season had a first round run. And so we're going to keep tabs on that. Absolutely. We're going to keep tabs on that. And oh, by the way, you don't have old tall guy that I can't remember his name right now. He's injured. My brain's not working. What's Derek Lively. Thank you. I got it before you did, Doc. And you got no Lively. So Gafford's got to play this season. Like, he has to play. There's no way at all if he's healthy, does not play. And he can get up to 25 minutes this season if he gets this ankle thing figured out. And I don't think he will. I think he's going to kind of struggle to stay at about 20 to 24. But if Anthony Davis goes down and then he gets forced, I think that, there's a chance that he does get up to that 25 minutes. And in that 25 minutes, as long again as his ankle's not completely screwed up, he would be a threat for top 75 at least. Top 60 would be in play, and you get into these 9-cat leagues where he could get up into top 40. These are things that could happen with Daniel Gafford. I think you got to be patient here, and especially since we've kind of gotten through the tough part with Gafford. He's I think this last night's game was more of a let's get you out there. Let's see if you can run up and down the floor. Don't do anything crazy while you're out there. Just kind of stay in your lane. And they didn't look to find him with the ball or anything. Just get out there and give us some minutes. So this is a little dress rehearsal for the future, week, 2 weeks. And then so we got through the bad part with Dan Gafford. And I think he should be rostered in all 12 team standard formats. If you're in a 10 team where one center plays and there's a lot of great centers out there, maybe this action's not for you. But everybody else that needs high upside, Daniel Gafford's got to be on your radar. And then I will also mention Santi Aldama. Don't panic with Santi. I think this was more of a function of Jaren Jackson Jr. going off and the game being weird because it was the Clippers. Let's get to buy low or avoid, Doc. Kobe White's been struggling. He's got a 4-game rank of 227. So he is really struggling right now. Are you going to buy low on Kobe White or are you going to avoid?
I'm surprised the numbers are that low. His last 2 games, he scored 20 in 5 of his last 6 games. No blocks. He hasn't been stealing the ball. That hurts. The 3-pointers have dried up. He was 2 of 14 over his last 2 games, I think. So he's in a shooting slump, but he's also, we've heard his name kicked around in trade rumors. He's playing with the numbers being that low. I don't feel like his owner is going to realize that Kobe's not contributing right now. So I think it's going to be hard to make a buy low move for him, for somebody who's not totally dialed into, rankings and all of that, because it doesn't feel like he's playing as poorly as he is. So, but I don't like the trade rumors. I don't like the fact he's competing with Giddey for touches and everything else, and Ayo Dosunmu and all those guys. But I mean, it seems like a good buy low opportunity to me.
Yeah, I would be probably top 75 to 90 would be my range of what I would be trying to throw across to get Kobe White and take advantage of some of this noise. I would definitely make sure that the person was well aware of the struggles from a ranking perspective this season, put that in their face, and somehow I don't know how you do that without getting like you look a little desperate, like you got, you're salivating over a steak or something. Nikola Vucevic, 208 over the last 5 games, struggling, frustrated with teammates. Bulls kind of maybe on the verge of disbanding even. How do you deal with Vooch? Would you be targeting with him or targeting him with, say, like a top 75 player, or would you pass on all of this?
I mean, we don't know where he's going to end up. Like, the Bulls are imploding. They got off such a great start, right? And then I was all fired up. They were my favorite team, blah, 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 blah. Now they just lose every single game. Vooch is struggling. Kobe's struggling. Buzelis and Giddey aren't getting minutes. So I don't really want the Chicago Bulls version of Vooch, and I don't necessarily want Vooch in a backup role either. So I'm probably passing on Vooch at this point.
I would try to do this if I could make an amazing deal happen. If you could get like a top 90 player to get Vooch, you could give that player to get Vooch. I could do that. I just don't think anybody's going to do it. And for those reasons, I'm going to pass, because I don't want to give a top 75 player for Nikola Vucevic, because I think the Chicago scenario could be bad. I think the trade scenario could be bad, and certain things could spin south here real quick for him. What about Santi Aldama? He's in a dip. He's at 193 over the last 5 games. Would you try to buy into Santi Aldama with everything going on in Memphis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We saw an outlier by Jaren Jackson last night. Zach Edey's been out. Aldama's played better when Edey, he played better when Edey was out already previously. He's a veteran. He's been in Memphis. He may be the longest tenured Grizzly. I don't know. He's got to be one of them. And I just think that they're just going to let him keep going out there. And I just feel like he grabs his lunch pail and comes to work every day. So I like Aldama, and it does seem like a good opportunity to swoop in and grab him.
Especially now that he's been paid, like that was a big difference maker for him with them. Reed Shepherd showing up in a bit of a dip, 160 over 5 games. How aggressively would you pursue Reed Shepherd if somebody was thinking he wasn't that good?
I want Reed Shepherd on my team, but I don't need Reed Shepherd on my team. Like, I'm not going to go after him too aggressively, because the Rockets are 16-7. They've already got their core lineup and their starters, and then they've got Aaron Holiday and Reed Shepherd and Tari Eason, who didn't even play last night, wanting minutes off the bench. And it's going to get crowded. It is crowded. And I think Shepherd is in a horrible situation fantasy-wise, because his team is too good. and his role is not elevated enough.
I just got a confirmation my wife is watching the show. This makes me incredibly unsettled. I would be getting aggressive here for Reed Shepherd. I think there's, from a roto perspective, of course, I think with, head to head, it gets a little bit in the weeds where he's got, the defensive stats are freaking amazing for the guy, considering the criticism he gets, considering his size. You're not expecting this guy to get, close to 2 defensive stats per game. But everything else is in its little cubby, right? Like the points, the rebounds, the assists, they're not going to knock you over, but they're there, and they're there in low minutes. And those minutes aren't really going down. And the thought process would be maybe he could be a little bit better throughout the rest of the season. And I think what we're going to see at the end of this season is Reed Shepherd's going to show up with like a final ranking above 50 or something. And we're all going to be like, that was a top 50 season? Like, I guess so. Okay, cool. We'll take it. And I can't look at the private chat now. I would be aggressive. I would, and by aggressive, I think you could probably get him for a top 100 guy. People aren't looking at Reed Shepherd and thinking it's been this amazing season, but he's been rock solid. Paolo Banchero is checking in at 160, 4 games. One of the more divisive players in kind of basketball right now. What are you going to do with this, Doc? Are you going to try to get in on this in a head-to-head league where you don't care about the percentages as much? You don't care about the turnovers as much? Like, people are pretty down on him. Franz Wagner, hurt-ish. He sounds like he's going to be returning sooner rather than later. That private chat, I can't do that.
It's funny because you mentioned his flaws being, what did you say, turnovers and
percentages.
And then I'm sitting over here thinking, well, this guy doesn't block shots. He doesn't steal the ball. He doesn't hit threes. Like, that's 5
multiple issues.
That's 5 items that you and I just combined and rattled off. His free throws have been good lately. So there's that. But the field goal percentage is shaky. Like, okay, I've flip-flopped on Banchero like 7 times throughout his career. I've gone from, no, I don't see it. I don't know what everybody's so excited about. He doesn't block. He doesn't steal. He doesn't three. And then I've been like, but he's going to be an MVP candidate. Orlando's up and coming. He's going to go off. And I think I'm back to the point of I don't understand why we think he's going to be such a fantasy beast if he has 5 categories that he struggles in. So
I'm with you. I'm wondering, what's he going to level out at? Is it going to be like top 80? Right now he's a top 150 player in 9 cap formats, and in 8 cap formats, this is on a per game basis. He's a top 110 guy. So he's barely in the late rounds. He'll get you 20 points. He'll get you 8 boards. He'll get you 4 assists, and then nothing else. I mean, everything else is substandard from there. So I would not be buying into this. And I would assume that there will be people out there that would be. I would be looking to reverse sell low on his name value. But that said, I mean, he's got a wide open ramp to improve upon these numbers. I kind of just think he's maybe a top 75 guy at best. And whenever I rank this guy, I always give him way more rank than I feel like I should, just based on the idea that theoretically he should be able to go in and, have multiple improvements each season. The points, the rebounds, the assists, all of it goes up. I'm going to pass.
It was like 11th round value last year.
Yeah. I mean, I've been screaming this from the mountaintops, that and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I understand you can punt one category and the value gets a lot better. Though, hey, Giannis has actually had a better year this year in this regard. I want to give him his credit. But overall, 5 years, however many years we're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's like, okay, you can punt one category. Oh, wait, you got to punt 2. Oh, now you got to punt 3. Okay. Well, I mean, where are we playing? In a 6-category league where Giannis dominates? So it's always a conversation. And if my wife brings up a Dembona, then I'll know she's watching the show.
You know what? Remind me this coming summer, not to fall into the Banchero trap again. Because I went all in. I was like, he's going to win, MVP candidate, like just going to dominate. Not in fantasy. He's not, especially in Roto, dude. Especially in Roto.
Oh yeah, Roto. It's a no go. Every time, and some people will try these exotic punt strategies and try to make it work, but it never works. Norm Powell, your guy, Norm Powell, 160, 4 games. Are you going to buy into Norm Powell?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to really go try it. No, I'm not going to be aggressive with him. Andrew Wiggins and Tyler Hero being around.
I kind of think
it just hurts.
A good time to try. If the Hero stuff spins south, Powell could go back up to top 50. So I want to try to get him at like top 100. Would feel right. Top 75 is gambling. I don't think I would do that because I think Norm's got his own injury issues. What about this next guy? This one's really good. Darius Garland, 144. I saw him hobbling, and the Cavs beat writers were all about pointing that out. Like, oh, here we go again. That foot, that's not good. And then he had a massive game. So, I mean, what do you do with Garland here?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be fully healthy all year. It doesn't feel like it anyway. The fact he's playing, if he wasn't playing for a contender in the East, like let's say he was on one of these bad teams that we keep destroying, he might be done already. Like they might just be like, hey, let's do this next year. But he's on Cleveland and they have a chance to win. So I think there's that. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just sort of what it feels like. He's such a great player when he plays, though. So I'm kind of.
What would it take for you to buy low? Like what kind of a value would you send across to get Garland? I mean, 75, I think gets it done. If somebody tossed me a top 75 player for Darius Garland, I would say yes. Just to get out of the Darius Garland business. I was
thinking 100, but I mean 75 might do
it. Would you toss over a top 75 player to get Darius Garland, who could theoretically be a 4th round guy, just to throw out a number?
I'm too nervous about his injuries, man. I don't want to be stuck if this thing never goes away.
Because I think he's got too much name for a top 100, player that goes across to get the deal done. So it's going to take that. It's going to take that cachet to get to acquire.
He would have to be a perfect fit for my team for me to do that.
Your favorite player, Jimmy Butler, slid over the last 4 games, right in the 120 range. Are you going to toss a top 75 player? I'll keep that nice and low for you. A top 75 player to get Jimmy Butler, who's been in the 20s and 30s this season.
I'm going to go ahead and say probably not. Let's keep in mind that Steve Kerr said he's done a horrible job of coaching this season. The Warriors are 13-14.
That had nothing to do with anything. You had to talk about Steve Kerr.
Well, no, they're 13-14. Jimmy,
he has done a kind of a bad job coaching. I think
Jimmy ain't gonna care if they fall out of the playoff race.
That is a great point. And
Jimmy's supposed to be kumbaya-ing with Steph Curry and Draymond Green. And I've saw a report out there like, oh, the Warriors would package Podziemski and Draymond and all these guys to get Giannis. And I don't think Jimmy want to play with Giannis either. He don't want to share the ball with Giannis. Imagine that. So I don't know. I'm just out on Jimmy.
Maybe, Butler. But the problem with that is the problem with all those scenarios involving Giannis is he doesn't want to shoot. Jimmy doesn't want to shoot. Yeah, you got the best shooter that's ever played the game, but that's not enough. It's not enough to counterbalance it. I would buy into Jimmy Butler. I think that the Warriors will eventually. I mean, people want to play with Steph Curry. Bottom line, when there's a will, there's a way. Get the Kuminga thing out of the, just get that whole situation out of the room and something good will happen. I think Jimmy will keep his foot on the gas pedal. I would definitely do a top 75 player. I would probably draw the line at about like maybe 50 would be the line. On 50, 60, I think would accommodate for some of that downside risk. But I think it's generally a good time to be Jimmy Butler in a fantasy league But your point about the losses, that when the situation goes south, especially for a Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, like kind of relationship within a team, if the fingers start getting pointed, those are two dudes that are gonna not hide their feelings, and they will probably get into a spat. Maybe they'll kiss and make up. Josh Giddey, number 57, 5 games. What you got?
Bulls are 1-8 of their last 9 games. In their last game, which was a loss to the freaking Pelicans, Giddey only played 24 minutes. I just think about where this guy finished last year and how good he was, how he finished up the season. And I think out of all the uncertainty with the Bulls, like I'm worried about Vooch. I'm worried about Kobe White. I'm worried about Buzelis, sort of. I'm not worried about him. I'm just annoyed. I'm not worried about Giddey. He's been paid. He's the man. So I think if they do blow it up and do things differently the rest of the way, I think Giddey's going to be good to go. So he's been 54 though, and I mean, isn't that around where he finished last season? Like, I don't feel like that is.
He had a really solid second half of the year, and I think it's because they've kind of made their play here with Giddey. I think what they'll probably do for the next 2 to 3 years is try to surround Giddey with players that are complementary. So a lot of defensive guys, a lot of guys that are low usage, a lot of shooters as well. And so hopefully if there is action at the trade deadline, that there would be complementary players coming back for Josh Giddey. I'm okay with Giddey. It's been bad. He needs to hit more free throws. He needs to do more in general. But I'm not down on Giddey. I would probably trade a top 30 in 8 cat and top 40 in 9 cat, kind of just blindly, no questions asked.
Well, we just have to remember it. Like last year in 9 cat, he was 50th. And that's with 20 points, 9 boards, 9 assists. So he's right around 50 right now. I don't know that, you're really buying low on him. I feel like you're basically just buying Josh Giddey.
Yeah, basically. But it's been a little bit of, he got drafted in the late first round sometimes and definitely within the second round. So there's a name value and there's a draft value attached to Josh Giddey. So I think the price will be high to acquire him regardless. But there's also a frustration factor. I've got a lot of people sending me their trade. Should I do this? Should I do this? And people are getting offered Josh Giddey. And I'm just kind of saying, yeah, go get Josh Giddey. I don't see the downside right now. And a lot of safety within that floor. As long as the dude's healthy, he's going to be pretty damn good. Hit some more free throws, and he's kind of in the ballpark of where he was drafted. I think he was drafted a little too high, and he needed to kind of have all the good games all season long in order to hit that number. But that was always a potential. That was always a possibility there. So good stuff on Josh Giddey. Let's talk about tonight's game. I see you're wearing a Spurs hoodie, Doc. Have you come over to the Spurs side? Are you going to take the Spurs plus 2.5 minus 108 on FanDuel against the Knicks tonight?
I was already on the Spurs side. I just didn't think they were going to give Oklahoma City their second loss the other night, which we have yet to discuss because I don't want to talk about it. So yes, I am on the Spurs plus 2.5 minus 108 over there at FanDuel tonight. So this is the only game in town tonight, right?
Oh yeah, this is it.
So it's
for all the
Spurs,
Tostitos,
Knicks, for all the cups. I'm going to go with the Spurs just because of the Wemby factor and the fact they just beat OKC. They've got to be feeling good about themselves right now, and they've got Castle back, and he looks awesome, and De'Aaron Fox is playing very well, and Keldon Johnson wants the $530,000 that I think these players get for winning this thing because he wants to buy a llama brew. Did you know this?
I did not know this, but that actually tracks. I think, look, there's certain things about matchups. That's why playoff basketball is so great to bet on. Jalen Brunson just lost probably, I don't know, like 2/3 of his potential offense. All that stuff where he gets in the lane and he does this and he does that. And it's like, he gets the shot off by an inch or something. He doesn't get that anymore. Wemby's just going to go over there and just slap that thing away like he's playing against a bunch of 12-year-olds. Mikal Bridges, same thing. He doesn't have the bag to deal with that. OG Anunoby doesn't have the bag to deal with that. Guys like Josh Hart probably have the bag to kind of deal with that because he can get in there and kind of dislodge him on his way to the basket. But like, that's one player we're talking about with Wembanyama. The rest of the Spurs they'll have some trouble with Brunson, like on the perimeter, the young guys getting their hands in there fouling. I think he'll kind of lean toward a lot of that action in tonight's game, but they are a handful. They don't have nearly enough defensive answers on the New York side for the Spurs. And there is one little wrinkle that's kind of fun. Mike Brown understands De'Aaron Fox probably better than any coach in the league at this point, and he can scheme for Fox a little bit, and he will scheme for Fox. So this comes down to all the other guys, and the Spurs have a ton of burrito brothers that are there ready to just do the thing. And the Knicks don't have that depth. I look at this as almost like a mismatch. I would take the Spurs on the money line plus 114. If you could pump this thing up and get the Spurs minus whatever, I would be considering those angles as well. I think they're plenty motivated. I think they've got enough pedigree. I think that the Knicks will struggle in this game. And so that's what I got and why. And Doc, feel free to jump in with anything you'd like, but that's it for today's show. We got it done in a svelte 56 and a half minutes. The over hit again. FanDuel needs to start putting that up.
I had 100 on the over. I'm happy.
Yeah, 100 on the other. We're going to make our money betting on ourselves. Oh my God. Who would do that? If you guys enjoyed this episode, the best way to keep this content coming is super simple. If you're listening on the pod feed, take 60 seconds and drop us a 5-star review. It helps us a ton. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the Sports Ethos channel so you never miss a new episode. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Doc. Thank you to our content team, Mike Passador, Keston Paul, Mark Camaro, Tim Woodson, William Harris, Yoel Abuloff, John Mosales, Paul Williamson, and Anthony Cates. Definitely go check out the MLB guys right now. Our NFL guys are in the final stretch, but the MLB guys, I watched them cooking all the other day. And to our tech team, and for Steve, Andre, and all of us here at Sports Ethos, I will be back later today for a special B150 release. It's a 30-team breakdown, but it's all about the B150 for our Sports Ethos subscribers, and we will do that on air as well. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, presented by FanDuel. Oh, my God.